That wasn't even the worst. Oh my gosh, the worst was that 2020 summer. It got so bad into fall for us as a couple and a relationship, we decided to go apple picking. Yeah, that's when you're at the end of your rope. You're like, anything outside, I don't care what it is. Apple picking is the biggest scam on earth. Apple picking is an activity that you pay someone to do that you would not do if they paid you. There is no chance if a guy was like, hey, I have a field. It's 3 or 4.5 hours away from here. If you want to come out one day when it's really hot, I will pay you $6.75 an hour to pick the fruit. I would be like, no. That's the worst deal I've ever heard of in my life. I have a college education, sir. I got options. He's like, okay, new deal. You pay me $35. And you do the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, yes, now we're negotiating. This is business. This is how it works. So my wife and I went apple picking in Pennsylvania. And the problem with going apple picking is you get all the way there and you can't pick 5 apples, you know? It's not like going to the store. No, you gotta buy the whole orchard or else it's not worth the trip. My wife was going bananas. She was getting everything. She's like, oh, this one looks good. Oh, this one looks really good. Oh, this one's from Mount Fuji. I was like, I think it's from Pennsylvania. We came home with 11 pounds of apples. There's 2 people in our house. You ever try to eat 11 pounds of apples in a week? It makes you regret living in a 1-bathroom apartment. It was a mess. The reason why we went 4.5 hours away to Pennsylvania is because all my wife's friends told her this was the best apple orchard in the Northeast because it's run by the Amish and they don't use electricity, so the apples taste better. Yeah, not like all those other apple trees that are plugged into the power grid. No, there's no electricity in these apples, okay? And then we got there, and these people, they weren't even Amish, they were Mennonites. Yeah, I don't know what that is either. I know I paid for Amish. I know the point of Pennsylvania was Amish. I got to the front of the line to pay. The lady, she goes, actually, we're Mennonites. I was like, fine, what's that? She goes, well, we dress like the Amish, but we drive cars. And we use electricity! So not Amish. They are regular people in costumes. I drove 4.5 hours for Halloween. Plus, I told her, I said, I want my money back. These apples are disgusting. I can taste the electricity on these apples. It's been a long 2 years. It really has, you know? And when we came back out, no one prepared us to come back outside. I wasn't prepared at all. Last summer, I was walking down the street in my neighborhood. This man in uniform stopped me and asked me to join the Navy. And I do not think he was prepared for how quickly I said yes. I was like, yeah, where's the boat? I can leave now. Do you have a haircut and a uniform when I get there? I don't even need to go pack. I tried to impress him. I'm like, if you need time to think about this, I'll be waiting for you on the starboard side of the street. Yeah, 2 knots down in front of the Popeyes. Eating spinach. And that's everything I know about the Navy. Anyway, he wasn't ready for a yes. He was like, I was like, can I join? He's like, oh, you can take a business card. I'm like, I don't want a business card. I want a ship. I want a Vamonos. And I realized the problem with these Navy guys, these recruiters, they spend their whole life recruiting 18-year-olds, you know? They're not joining the Navy. They're like, I don't know, I got my whole life ahead of me. Beat it, Pops. Me, I'm 40 years old. I got a bad back. Life's over. I'm like, yeah, let's pull anchor and get out of here. And then I went home and I saw those Navy commercials on TV, and they're great commercials. Love the commercials, but they gotta stop marketing them to the 18-year-olds and start marketing them to the middle-aged married couples who've spent the last 2 years inside staring at each other during a global pandemic. We would all join the Navy. Because the commercial starts with a ship going through the open ocean. And I'm like, oh, that looks, I could use a cruise. And then the voice comes on. He's like, do you want to get away? Yes. Do you want to see the world? I do. Do you want to leave your family for a while but still be considered a hero? That's exactly what I want. I'm joining the Navy. So my wife is a Chinese person. My wife's from China, and I lived in China for 12 years. I speak Mandarin Chinese. My wife speaks Mandarin Chinese. Her family speaks Mandarin Chinese. But they're from a city called Suzhou, so they also speak their local language, Suzhou dialect. So to review, I speak Mandarin, my wife speaks Mandarin, her family speaks Mandarin, and then when I go visit them, they don't. No, they hear me coming and they switch real fast to Suzhou dialect. And I can catch them because I know what Mandarin sounds like, I know what Suzhou dialect sounds like, and then I know what my name, Turner, sounds like. They're like, oh, 你好，你觉得明天我们去什么地方？哦，不好意思 ，Turner 来了，哈哈哈哈哈哈哈！ Look, I heard that. I heard my name at the end of the thing. That was me. And that's Mandarin, but I can catch Suzhou dialect too, because Suzhou dialect sounds very similar to Mandarin if Mandarin was spoken by a bumblebee who has a sore throat and then every once in a while sneezes. So I'm walking in, they're like, 都可以哭哭一点点，啊滋个啊滋个啊滋个啊滋个哈个哈个哈个哈个，和 two Turner 来了。Like, that was me after the sneeze. And now my wife's aunt is trying to force me to learn Suzhou dialect. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I speak English, I speak Mandarin. Those are the two big ones. She goes, no. Suzhou dialect's the most important language to learn in the world because it's a dying language. I'm like, I don't think that math checks out. Wouldn't that make it the least important language to learn? If no one's learning, that's a last place language. There's still 11 people learning Klingon right now. And this is my wife's aunt's new one. She goes, Turner, think about it. What happens if everyone in our city forgets Suzhou dialect and then you come and you need to reteach it to all of us? How cool would that be? I was like, I see no scenario. What do you think's gonna happen? They're like, oh, none of us remembers our language. Oh man, what are we gonna do? Oh wait, maybe that white guy knows it. Let's ask him if he learned this dying language. My wife's uncle, Uncle Bobo, I was talking to him. I was like, Uncle Bobo, this is so rude. You know, I spent a decade learning Mandarin. I come visit, you won't speak it. He goes, no, Turner, I think you're misunderstanding our culture. We don't speak Suzhou dialect because you don't understand it. It's just when you come visit, we feel most comfortable speaking a language that you don't understand. I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah. I'm like, And now my wife gets that this angers me, you know? So her solution now when we go visit them and they're all talking Suzhou dialect is to throw me out one word in Mandarin that's every 30 minutes that's supposed to catch me all the way back up to the last half hour of the conversation. But it's always a word I never knew in Mandarin in the first place. So they're like, 都可以 cuckoo 一点点 啊这个 哦不好意思 kaleidoscope 因为明天我们去什么地 That one wasn't in the book. I can tell you how I proposed to my wife, if you want to hear that story. So we were living in China, and I thought the best move before proposing to her would be to go to her dad's house and ask him for his blessing. What do we think? Good idea? Yeah. No, wrong. Terrible idea. Yeah, because it turns out he had never heard of this tradition. So he was just confused. I went to his house, I knocked on his door, I was like, hi, I would like to marry your daughter, is that okay? He goes, you're gonna have to ask her. He goes, I don't know what backwards culture you come from, but here in China, we let the women decide if they're gonna marry the man or not marry the man. It's so embarrassing. I was like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. It's just this thing we do. Before I could even get my explanation out, he takes 10 steps back, he gets out his phone, and he goes, hi, yeah, Turner's here. He wants to know if you'll marry him. He thought I was asking him to ask her for me. He thought I was such a pansy that I didn't have the guts to ask her myself, and I used the father-in-law of all people as the middle school go-between. Like, pass this note to her and see if she likes me. Oh, so he knew her and I lived together 45 minutes away. He was like, this man just drove 45 minutes because he couldn't ask the person sitting next to him on the couch. He wanted me to call her and do it for him. Anyway, he came back and he goes, yeah, so she said yes. And that's how I proposed to my wife, everybody.